The phone was shaking in Caleb's hand when I walked through the door. My shift at the mill had run until 6 that Monday morning, the kind of graveyard maintenance work that leaves your joints aching and your brain fuzzy. I'd been downsized from supervisor to contractor 3 months back, and the night hours were all I could get. But when I saw my 16-year-old son standing in our kitchen with that look on his face, every bit of exhaustion evaporated. "Dad," he said. His voice cracked. "You need to see this." I set down my thermos. "What happened?" He turned the phone toward me. The video was shaky, shot from the top of our stairs. The timestamp read yesterday, 11:47 p.m., right when I would have been replacing filters in the mill's third-floor HVAC system. The footage showed our foyer. My wife Lena stood there with a man I recognized as Trent Halley, the marketing guy from her physical therapy clinic. They were close, too close, and when they noticed Caleb at the top of the stairs, their expressions shifted through embarrassment, annoyance, and something uglier. "Caught us, champ," he said on the video. Lena forced a laugh. Somewhere off-screen, another woman's voice came through a phone speaker. Naomi Pike, Lena's work friend and the clinic's office lead. "Tell him, honey," Naomi's voice chirped. "Tell the boy it's none of his business." Caleb had lowered the phone after that, but the audio continued. Lena's voice went sharp. "This is inappropriate, Caleb. You're spying." "In my own house?" my son had replied. "Your father doesn't need to know about every little thing," Trent had said, that condescending tone people use when they think they're talking to someone beneath them. "This is adult stuff. Complicated." The video ended. I stared at the black screen, then at my son. Caleb's jaw was tight, the way mine gets when I'm trying not to lose it. "Did they touch you?" I asked. "No. But Dad, I know." I put a hand on his shoulder. "I know what they did." My first instinct was to explode, to drive straight to that clinic and make Trent Halley eat his own teeth. But I'd learned something working nights in an old paper mill that had been converted into offices and storage units. You don't rush into a space without checking the exits, the sight lines, the load-bearing walls. So instead, I made coffee. I sat at our kitchen table with its chipped laminate edge and played the video 3 more times. Each viewing added another detail. The way Lena touched Trent's arm. The confidence in his posture, like he'd been in our house before. The background on Naomi's phone call, office sounds, meaning this whole thing had been coordinated. Caleb sat across from me, watching my face. "What are you going to do?" he asked. "Fix things," I said. "Every creak, every leak, every person who thought they could walk through that door and humiliate my son." I kept my voice steady, but inside, something had already shifted. The Evan Dwyer who'd walked in that door at 6 in the morning was different from the one sitting at this table. That old version had believed in working hard, keeping his head down, trusting that life would be fair if you played by the rules. The new version knew better. Lena came home around 9 after her morning shift at the clinic. She found me in the living room, replacing an outlet cover I'd been meaning to fix for months. Caleb had gone upstairs. "You're home early," she said, setting down her purse. "Shift ended on time." I didn't look up from the screwdriver. "How was work?" "Busy, the usual." She moved toward the kitchen. "Is Caleb okay? He sent me some weird texts last night." "Did he?" I heard her pause. The floorboard under the kitchen threshold had a specific creak, one I'd been meaning to fix but now realized was useful. It telegraphed position. "Evan, what's going on?" I set down the screwdriver and stood. When I turned to face her, I saw it, that flicker of guilt people get when they know they've been caught but haven't decided on their story yet. "Caleb showed me a video," I said. Her face went pale, then flushed. "He had no right." "In his own house," I interrupted. "In his own house, Lena. While I was on shift, keeping this roof over our heads because your clinic salary can't cover the mortgage alone anymore. In our foyer, with that smug piece of work from your office and Naomi coaching you through speakerphone like it's some kind of game. It's not what you think? Then tell me what it is." She opened her mouth, closed it, tried again. "Trent and I are friends. He was giving me a ride home because my car was making that noise again. Your car's fine. I checked it this morning. Oil's good, belts are tight, no noises." I picked up my phone, pulled up the HOA neighborhood chat that I'd been scrolling through during my coffee. But here's something interesting. Mrs. Chen at 47 posted yesterday about a black Audi sedan parked outside her place after midnight. Same car that was outside the Morrisons' house last week. Same car that's been showing up on this street when I'm at work. I turned the phone toward her. The HOA chat had photos. Grainy, but clear enough. Trent's least performance sedan with its distinctive wheels and dealer frame. This is insane, Lena said. You're tracking cars now? I'm paying attention. There's a difference. She grabbed her purse. I can't do this right now. Can't do what? Can't explain why another man was in our house at midnight? Can't tell our son why he got lectured about spying when all he did was walk downstairs in his own home? Trent never should have said that, she admitted. That was wrong. But you didn't stop him. She headed for the door. I didn't follow. I'd learned from the mill that sometimes the best move is to let pressure build in a system, to wait for the weak point to reveal itself. We'll talk later, she said, when you're calmer. After she left, I sat back down. Caleb came halfway down the stairs. Is she gone? He asked. Yeah. What now? I pulled out my phone and opened the calendar app. Lena's clinic schedule was synced to our family calendar, something she'd set up years ago when coordinating Caleb's doctor appointments. I studied the patterns, her lunch breaks, the gaps between patients. The days marked admin work that always seemed to run long. Now? I looked up at my son. Now I do what I do best. I figure out how everything's connected, and then I take it apart piece by piece. As the story unfolds, hit the hype button, like, subscribe, and write in the comments. Would you forgive them or walk away? By Tuesday morning, I had a plan. Not a revenge fantasy, not some half-baked idea that would land me in jail. A real plan, built on observation and patience. I drove to the mill complex around 10, after catching 3 hours of sleep. The old paper mill sat along the river, 5 stories of red brick that developers had converted into office space 10 years back. Lena's clinic occupied the second floor. My old maintenance office had been on 4, back when I was a supervisor with regular hours and decent pay. The security guard at the front desk was Ray Kowalski, a guy I'd worked with before the downsizing. He looked up when I walked in, recognition dawning on his face. Evan Dwyer. Heard you were on nights now. Yeah, well, I shrugged. Bills don't care about pride. Ain't that the truth? Ray leaned back in his chair. What brings you by during daylight? Picking up some old paperwork from storage. But hey, while I'm here, can I ask you something? Shoot. The clinic upstairs. They keep regular hours? Ray's expression shifted slightly. He'd been doing this job long enough to know when a question had weight behind it. Mostly, he said carefully. Why? My wife works there, Lena Dwyer. I'm trying to surprise her for our anniversary. Thought I'd coordinate with her schedule. It wasn't our anniversary, and Ray probably knew it, but he played along. She usually leaves around 5, he said, but some nights she stays later. Administrative stuff, I guess. She ever stay with anyone else? That marketing guy, Trent Halley? Ray's pause was all the answer I needed. Look, man, he said quietly. I'm not trying to get in the middle of anything, but yeah, I've seen them leave together. Sometimes they go to the marketing equipment cage on 3. It's technically office space, but nobody uses it after hours except Halley. He's got a key. How often? A couple times a week, maybe more. I try not to notice, you know? I thanked him and headed up to the 3rd floor. The marketing equipment cage was at the end of a long hallway, past the bathrooms and the break room. The door had a key card reader, but the frame was old, installed back when the mill was still operational. I could see the gaps where the bolt sat. Not breaking in, I told myself. Just observing. I walked back downstairs, nodded to Ray, and left. In my truck, I pulled out my phone and opened the photos Caleb had sent me that morning. Not videos this time, but screenshots. My son had a knack for technology, the kind of casual competence 16-year-olds have with anything digital. When Lena left her laptop open yesterday, he'd captured notification previews from the clinic's Slack channel. The messages were damning in their casualness, emoji sequences that made their meaning clear, inside jokes about late-night projects and equipment testing, a message from Trent to Lena that read, "Same time tonight, I'll bring the wine." The timestamp was from last week. I forwarded everything to my personal email, then created a new folder labeled Evidence. Not for a lawyer, not yet. But I needed to organize what I knew, track the patterns, understand the full scope before I decided what to do with it. My phone rang. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. Mr. Dwyer, this is Naomi Pike from the clinic. I sat up straighter. What can I do for you, Naomi? Oh, you know. Her voice had that fake sweet quality some people use when they're enjoying themselves too much. I just wanted to check in about last night, make sure there weren't any hard feelings. Hard feelings about what? About the misunderstanding. With Caleb, he seemed upset, and I'd hate for that to cause problems in your household. The audacity of this woman. Misunderstanding, I repeated. Well, you know how teenagers are. They see something innocent and blow it out of proportion. I'm sure Lena explained everything. She tried. Good. Because really, Evan, Lena works so hard at the clinic. She deserves to have friends, people who appreciate her effort. Not everyone gets that. The dig was barely concealed. Naomi knew about my downsizing, probably heard about it from Lena. The night shift contractor whose boots tracked dirt through the house, whose work clothes smelled like old machinery and sweat. I appreciate the call, I said evenly. But Naomi, if you're ever in my house again, make sure it's during daylight and you're invited. Otherwise, you and I are going to have a very different kind of conversation. I hung up before she could respond. The rest of Tuesday passed in a blur of research. I drove past Trent's address, a model home in the new Riverside development across town. The place was staged to sell, all clean lines and empty rooms visible through the large windows. His black Audi sat in the driveway, already showing signs of wear around the rear bumper. I checked the HOA chat again. Sure enough, there was a thread from last month about required vehicle inspections for anyone parking in the development overnight, something about insurance liability. The inspection was scheduled for Thursday. Back home, Caleb met me at the door. Mom called, he said. She's staying at Aunt Kelly's tonight. Said you two need space. She say anything else? That I should think about whose side I'm on. I felt my jaw tighten. You're not on anyone's side. You're my son. This isn't your fight. It kind of is, though. He showed me his phone. Naomi left a voicemail. She said there's going to be a little surprise tonight at our house. Company. I listened to the message. Naomi's voice dripped with false concern, but the words were clear enough. She was engineering something, bringing people to our house without invitation, turning this into some kind of intervention or confrontation. When? I asked. She didn't say exactly, but based on when she called, I'm guessing dinner time. I looked at my watch. 4:30. If they were coming, it would be soon. Go to your room, I told Caleb. Whatever happens, you stay upstairs. If it gets loud, if it gets bad, you call 911. Understand? Dad, promise me. He nodded reluctantly. I spent the next hour getting ready. Not weapons, nothing stupid like that, but I moved the security camera we had inside the front door so it had a better angle on the living room. I cleared the kitchen counters of anything breakable. I put on clean clothes, combed my hair, made sure I looked put together and calm, because whatever was coming through that door, I was going to meet it on my terms. At 6:15, the doorbell rang. Thursday morning arrived with low clouds and the promise of rain. I hadn't slept well, my mind churning through scenarios and possibilities. But when my alarm went off at 7, I was already awake, already dressed, already ready. The emails had sent at 6 a.m., automated and anonymous. Tips to the clinic's HR department about after-hours facility usage. A message to the HOA office with timestamps of late-night disturbances. Nothing defamatory, nothing false, just facts, delivered to the right people. By 8, I was parked across from the mill complex, watching the entrance. Ray had texted me earlier. Lots of activity today, some kind of meeting on 2. The clinic was on the second floor. Whatever HR discussion was happening, it was happening now. At 9:15, Trent's black Audi pulled into the garage. I watched him park on level 3, away from the cameras, away from the main traffic flow. The same spot he'd been using for weeks, according to Ray. I gave him 5 minutes, then followed. The garage was dim, the overhead lights struggling against the gray morning. My footsteps echoed on concrete. I found Trent on level 3, standing by his car, on his phone. The inspections this afternoon, he was saying. I don't care what it costs, fix the lights now. He noticed me approaching, and his expression shifted from annoyance to alarm. I'll call you back, he said, ending the call. We stood 20 feet apart, the garage empty except for a few parked vehicles and the distant sound of traffic below. You sent those emails, Trent said. It wasn't a question. I sent facts to people who needed them. You're trying to destroy my career. You destroyed mine first. I stepped closer. 2 years ago, the marketing pitch you made to the construction company, operational efficiency improvements. You remember that? His face told me he did. You cost me my job, I continued. Then you wormed your way into my wife's workplace, into her life, into my house. You think that's coincidence? That was business. This is personal, I finished. Yeah, Trent, it's personal now. He moved fast, swinging a wild right hook that would have connected if I hadn't spent 20 years working with machinery that punished slow reactions. I ducked, felt his fist pass over my head, and shoved him back against his car. Don't, I warned. He came again, more desperate this time, grabbing at my jacket. We grappled, neither of us skilled fighters, just two men pushing and pulling in the dim garage. My knuckles scraped concrete when he shoved me toward a pillar, but I was stronger, heavier, more motivated. I got him turned around and pinned against the Audi's hood. "Listen to me," I said, my voice low. "You're going to stay away from my family, away from my house, away from my wife. You understand?" "You can't make me." I pressed harder, his cheek against cold metal. "The inspection's at 2. Your taillights are broken. Your HOA file is thick with complaints. HR just got an email about facility misuse. One more problem, Trent. Just one more, and everything you've built falls apart." A car alarm chirped somewhere below us. Footsteps on stairs. I let him go and stepped back. Trent straightened, his face red, tie askew. When he tried to drive away, he misjudged the turn and his front bumper scraped a concrete pillar. Paint transfer, a fresh gouge in the black finish. Perfect. I walked to the stairwell and descended slowly, my hand throbbing. On the second-floor landing, I ran into a woman I vaguely recognized from the clinic. She had her phone out. "Excuse me," she said. "Were you just on level 3? "Yeah." There was some kind of altercation. I heard shouting. "Two guys arguing about a parking spot," I said. "Nothing serious." She took a small step back, raised her phone slightly, not quite filming, but ready to. "I know you," she said. "You're Evan Dwyer, Lena's husband." "That's right." And that was Trent Halley. I didn't confirm or deny it. I just walked past her and out of the garage, into the gray morning that was starting to spit rain. By noon, the damage was done. Ray texted me. "Security's reviewing camera footage. Someone complained about a fight in the garage. Trent's meeting with HR right now." The woman who'd seen me had reported it. Of course she had. But the cameras on level 3 didn't cover the spot where Trent parked. They'd have footage of me entering and leaving, footage of Trent's car scraping the pillar, but nothing definitive about what happened between us. Plausible deniability. I drove home, cleaned my hand, put ice on the swollen knuckles. Caleb got home from school and found me at the kitchen table. "What happened?" he asked, looking at my hand. "Had a conversation with Trent. It got physical." "Did you win?" "There's no winning this, Caleb, just making sure people understand boundaries." My phone buzzed. A call from Lena. "What did you do?" she demanded. "Which part?" "HR called me in for a meeting. They're asking about facility access, about Trent, about why we were in the equipment cage after hours. Evan, I could lose my job." "Then tell them the truth?" "The truth will make me look..." "Like what? Like someone who violated policy? Like someone who used company resources for a personal relationship?" I kept my voice level. "You made choices, Lena. Now you get to explain them." She hung up. The vehicle inspection at Trent's development failed, as expected. The broken taillights, the fresh damage to the bumper, the accumulating HOA complaints. By evening, Ray sent me a photo from a mutual friend who lived in that development, a notice on Trent's door from the management company requesting a meeting to discuss lease compliance. I poured myself a drink and sat on the back porch. The rain had started for real now, steady and cold. Everything I'd set in motion was working. The dominoes were falling. But I felt hollow inside. Not regret, exactly. More like recognition. The man I'd been 2 weeks ago, the one who believed in fairness and hard work, was gone. In his place was someone harder, someone who understood that the world didn't reward patience or decency. It rewarded leverage. And I was just getting started. Sunday passed in tense silence. No calls from police, no visits from lawyers, just the hollow quiet of a house that used to be a home. Caleb spent most of the day in his room. I sat in the garage, supposedly organizing tools, actually just staring at concrete walls and replaying yesterday's chase in my mind. The videos had spread. Local Facebook groups, Twitter, some Reddit thread about fair freakouts. People picking sides, making jokes, speculating wildly about what had led to a middle-aged man chasing another through a fairground. Some of the comments defended me. Others called me unhinged. A few recognized Trent and Lena from the clinic's website and started connecting dots. By evening, I'd made a decision. I wasn't backing down. I wasn't apologizing. I was going to finish what they'd started. But I needed to be smarter about it, more calculated, less visible. I opened my laptop and started researching. Not how to hurt people, but how to hurt systems, reputations, professional standing, the structures people built to protect themselves. Trent's marketing work left a digital trail, contracts, client testimonials, case studies. But I found something else. A LinkedIn post from 18 months ago where he'd bragged about right-sizing a client's operational costs by 40%. That client was the construction company that bought the mill. I downloaded the post, archived the page, saved screenshots with metadata intact. Then I found his current contracts. The clinic was one, but there were others, small businesses and medical practices around the region. I cross-referenced them with business review sites, looking for patterns. Found one. A physical therapy practice 2 towns over had contracted Trent's services last year. 6 months later, they'd closed, citing unexpected costs and operational challenges. I dug deeper. Found a lawsuit filed by the practice's former owners against Trent's marketing firm, alleging fraudulent billing and breach of contract. The case had settled quietly, terms undisclosed. This wasn't just about my job. Trent had a pattern. He'd done this before. I compiled everything into a document: dates, amounts, testimonials, the lawsuit details, not to publish publicly, but to have ready. Leverage. My phone rang. Lena. "We need to meet," she said. No preamble, no pleasantries. "When?" "Now, the Riverside footbridge, neutral ground." I agreed and hung up. The footbridge was a pedestrian crossing over the river, midway between downtown and the new development. Lighted, public, nowhere to run or hide. I drove there through streets slick with evening drizzle. The bridge's lights reflected off dark water, and I could see a single figure waiting at the center span. Lena stood with her arms crossed, hair pulled back, looking exhausted. "I can't keep doing this," she said when I approached. "The clinic put me on administrative leave pending investigation. Trent's on suspension. Naomi's been written up twice. People are staring at me in grocery stores, Evan. Strangers. Actions have consequences." "You sound like a robot repeating a script." Her voice cracked. "This isn't you. The man I married wouldn't do this." "The man you married got downsized and humiliated while his wife found comfort in another man's arms. Maybe that version doesn't exist anymore." "So what? You're just going to destroy everyone, including yourself?" "I'm teaching people that they can't treat my family like collateral damage and walk away clean." She stepped closer, rain misting between us. "What happened to you?" I almost laughed. "You happened, Trent happened. Years of believing that if I worked hard and played fair, life would work out. Then I lost my job because of a consultant's pitch. Lost my marriage because you were bored or lonely or whatever excuse you're using. Lost my son's respect when he saw his mother bring her lover into our house. I never meant for that to happen. But it did, and you didn't stop it. You stood there and let Trent mock Caleb. Let Naomi orchestrate that humiliation. Let them treat our home like a stage for their drama. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't rebuild trust. Sorry doesn't unbreak what's broken." She wiped her eyes. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to understand what you took. Not just the marriage or the stability or the routine. You took my belief that people are fundamentally decent, that if you love someone and build a life with them, they won't casually destroy it." "I didn't—" "You did," I interrupted. "You and Trent and Naomi. You all did. And now you're facing the same thing I faced 3 months ago when I got downsized. Consequences you didn't see coming." Lena turned away, staring at the river. "Trent's threatening to sue you for harassment, assault, defamation. Let him try. I've got documentation of everything. Videos, messages, witnesses. He came to my house uninvited. He crowded my son. He swung first in that garage. Every step of the way, I've stayed just inside the lines." "You've ruined him?" "He ruined himself. I just made sure people noticed." She turned back to me. "And what happens now? You just keep destroying anyone connected to this until there's nothing left?" I considered the question. Thought about the research I'd done tonight, the leverage I'd compiled, the next moves I could make. "I don't know," I admitted. "Maybe. Or maybe I'm already done and I just don't realize it yet." "That's not an answer. It's the only one I have." She walked away, footsteps echoing on the bridge. I watched her disappear into the drizzle, then pulled out my phone and opened the document I'd compiled on Trent. Not tonight, I thought, but soon. Because the thing about becoming a monster is that once you start, it's hard to stop. The anger becomes fuel, the planning becomes purpose, the destruction becomes the only thing that feels like justice. And I was just getting started. Monday night, the storm rolled in. Not metaphorical. Actual thunderheads. The kind that turn the sky greenish-gray and make the radio stations issue warnings every 15 minutes. I was in my truck when the text came through. Unknown number. Meet me, alone, Riverside model home. 8 p.m., or I send something you don't want your kid to see. Trent. I called the number. It went straight to voicemail. I tried texting back. No response. Whatever he had, Whatever leverage he thought he'd gained, he was making his play. Fine. I drove home, told Caleb to stay inside and lock the doors, then headed across town. The wind picked up, buffeting my truck on the Riverside Development's entrance road. The model home sat at the end of the street, isolated, its staged windows glowing faintly. Trent's Audi was in the driveway, taillights still showing damage from my earlier work. I parked and approached the front door. Unlocked. Inside, the house was dark, except for a single lamp in the living room. Staged furniture, glass coffee table, decorative artwork. Everything perfect and fake. "Trent?" I called. The lights went out. I froze, letting my eyes adjust. Thunder rumbled outside, close enough to feel in my chest. "You came," Trent's voice said from somewhere to my right. "What do you want?" "To show you what happens when you push too far." A shape moved in the darkness. I pivoted, trying to track him by sound. He was circling, using the furniture for cover. "You cost me everything," he continued. "My job's gone. My lease is being terminated. I've got creditors calling, HR investigations, police complaints, all because you couldn't handle your wife finding someone better. You came to my house, and you destroyed my life." He rushed me from the left. We collided near the couch, grappling. He was desperate now. No technique, just fury and flailing limbs. We crashed into the coffee table. Glass shattered, fragments scattering across hardwood. I got him pinned, my weight holding him down among the broken glass. His phone was in his jacket pocket. I pulled it out. "What's on here?" I demanded. "What were you going to send my son?" "Nothing," he gasped. "It was a bluff, just to get you here." I almost believed him. Almost. Then I saw movement at the top of the stairs. A shadow, watching. Lena. "He's lying," she said. "He's got copies of everything. Videos, screenshots. He was going to post them online, ruin all of us." Trent tried to twist free. "Shut up!" I dragged him to his feet and toward the sliding door that led to a second-floor balcony. Rain lashed the glass, wind howling. "Open it," I told Lena. She hesitated, then slid the door open. The storm roared in, soaking us instantly. I pushed Trent onto the balcony, pinned him against the railing. Below, the river churned, swollen with rain, maybe 15 feet down. "You want to ruin people?" I shouted over the wind. "You want to threaten my son? Here's what that gets you." I shoved him halfway over the railing. Trent screamed, clutching at my jacket, at the wet metal, at anything. His legs kicked frantically. "Evan, stop!" Lena was behind me, her voice barely audible through the storm. I held him there, suspended, looking into his terrified eyes, seeing everything I'd become reflected back. Then I pulled him back, dropped him onto the balcony deck. "You're done," I said. "No more clinic, no more house, no more chasing my family. You're done, or next time I let go." Sirens cut through the storm. Red and blue lights flickered down the street. Someone had called the cops. Maybe a neighbor who'd heard the commotion. Maybe Lena had a backup plan. Didn't matter. I tossed Trent's phone onto the floor of the living room and walked out the front door. The sirens were getting closer. I got in my truck and drove. Not home, not anywhere specific. Just drove through the storm, windshield wipers on high, while lightning turned the night white every few seconds. What I'd almost done on that balcony sat in my chest like a stone. I'd been ready to drop him. In that moment, with the storm screaming and years of anger compressed into a single choice, I'd been ready to let go. That's who I'd become. Not a man defending his family, a man one bad decision away from being a murderer. Tuesday morning arrived with clear skies and the kind of cold that makes breath visible. The police hadn't come for me, yet. But the rest of the fallout had arrived right on schedule. Trent's HR investigation concluded with termination. The clinic couldn't keep someone who'd violated policies, created liability, and become the center of a public spectacle. His lease was officially terminated. 30 days to vacate, penalties applied. The car lease company had flagged his account for the damage and late repairs. And more penalties, possible repossession. Naomi had been demoted at the clinic, her involvement in coordinating after-hours access costing her the office lead position, and Lena faced an internal review about professional conduct and facility misuse. I learned all this through Ray, who heard it through the building's gossip network. By noon, it was all anyone talked about at the mill. My phone rang. Officer Reese again. "Mr. Dwyer, we need to talk about Monday night." "Okay." "Mr. Halley filed another complaint. Says you assaulted him in his home and threatened to throw him off a balcony." "His home?" I couldn't help the bitter laugh. "It's a leased model home he's being evicted from, and I didn't assault him. We had an altercation, but he texted me to come there. He lured me into a confrontation." "Do you have the text?" "I do." A pause. "Send it to me. And Mr. Dwyer, this is your last warning. One more incident and someone's getting arrested. I don't care who started what. Understood? Understood? She hung up. I forwarded the text, then sat in my truck outside the mill complex and stared at my phone. It was over. Not cleanly, not neatly, but over. Trent was ruined. Lena was facing professional consequences. Naomi had been knocked down a peg. I'd won. So why did I feel empty? That afternoon, I drove to the Riverside footbridge again. Lena was already there, standing in the same spot as before. "Caleb told me you'd be here," I said. She nodded. "He's perceptive. Always has been." We stood in silence, watching the river flow past. The storm had passed, but the water was still high, still fast. "Trent's leaving town," Lena said finally, "moving back to Pittsburgh where his family is, trying to rebuild. Good for him. The clinic's giving me a choice. Transfer to a different location or resign. Which will you choose?" "I don't know yet." She looked at me. "What about you? What happens now?" "I go back to night shifts, fix things at the house, try to be a decent father to our son." "Are we getting divorced?" The question hung between us like the mist over the river. "Probably," I said. "Eventually. But not today. Today I'm just trying to figure out if I can live with who I've become." "Who's that?" "A man who won by becoming what he hated. A man who destroyed people because they destroyed him first." Lena wiped her eyes. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. For all of it. The affair, bringing him to the house, standing by while he humiliated Caleb. You deserved better." "So did you," I admitted. "I wasn't the husband you needed. Too focused on work, on bills, on just surviving. I forgot to actually live." "That doesn't excuse what I did." "No, but it explains it." We stood there as the sun dropped toward the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. "Caleb wants to stay with you," Lena said. "He made that clear." "And you?" "I'll find an apartment. Something small. Maybe take that transfer, start over somewhere nobody knows what happened." I nodded. It was the right call, even if it hurt. She reached out and squeezed my hand once, briefly. Then she walked away, her footsteps echoing on the bridge. I stood alone, watching the river carry debris downstream, thinking about everything that had broken and what, if anything, could be salvaged. My phone buzzed, a text from Caleb. "Coach says I made varsity track. Wanted you to know." I smiled despite everything. Some things were still good, some things hadn't been destroyed. I turned and walked back to my truck. Behind me, the Riverside Development's alarm was still wailing from the model home, a sound that carried across the water. I'd won. I'd protected my son. I'd made sure the people who hurt us faced consequences. But standing there in the fading light, I understood what victory had cost, everything, and I'd do it again.